Before streaming queues and social media algorithms decided what we watched, movies had to find their audience the old-fashioned way. Word of mouth. A lucky rental at Blockbuster. A late-night cable rewatch that hit different the second time. Some films broke through, most didn't. You might know a couple, but chances are you missed at least one. So let's rewind. Here are 10 underrated 90s movies everyone should see, each with a reason to revisit and a story worth sitting with. Let's begin. Have you ever watched a child and wondered what's really going on beneath the surface? That's the quiet ache at the center of Radio Flyer. It came out in 1992, marketed like a nostalgic kids movie. Two brothers, Mike and Bobby, building forts, riding bikes, playing in the yard. But what it really tells us is something harder. These boys, played by Elijah Wood and Joseph Mazzello, are using imagination not for fun, but for survival. Their stepfather is abusive. The danger isn't loud, but it's there. And in the middle of all this, they focus on one thing: a red wagon, the Radio Flyer. They don't just ride it, they believe in it as something that might save them, not metaphorically, literally. That belief becomes the story. The film had its own struggles. It started under a different director, then shifted tone mid-production. The result? A movie that couldn't quite find its audience. Too dark for kids, too whimsical for adults. But maybe that's exactly what makes it special. It mirrors how childhood trauma feels: confusing, magical, terrifying. The kind of story where fantasy doesn't fix things, but it helps you cope. It didn't hit big. Critics didn't know what to do with it. But Radio Flyer stuck with some of us, because it understood something others didn't. Sometimes a child's greatest strength is the ability to imagine a way out, even if that way is impossible. And somehow, that makes it feel very real. Picture this: Joe Pesci, fresh off Goodfellas, stepping into a role that's not a gangster, but a landlord. A selfish, shortcut-loving, high-rise-owning slumlord. That's the super. Louis Kritzky doesn't fix broken heaters. He doesn't care about leaks or peeling paint, until a judge gives him a sentence. Live in one of your own buildings. No penthouse, no suits, just rats, busted plumbing, and neighbors who've had enough. At first, it plays like a comedy. And it is. Pesci's timing is sharp. But as days pass, something shifts. The jokes don't disappear, but they sit next to something real. You start seeing what Louis sees: families doing their best in tough conditions. And the film quietly asks, what changes when you actually have to live in the world you ignore? Released in 1991, it came at a time when New York's housing issues were loud, but maybe not funny. Maybe that's why this one slipped under the radar. Too light for drama fans, too honest for broad comedy. Caught somewhere in between. But now, it feels relevant. Gentrification, housing inequality, rent crises, still part of the conversation. And here's the bonus: the super is available to watch free on YouTube. No subscriptions, no rentals, just a simple story, one that uses comedy to peel back a problem we're still trying to fix. It might not change the world, but it might change how you look at a broken window. Or who's responsible for fixing it. What if the only thing separating two versions of your life was whether you caught the train? Sliding Doors isn't really about parallel timelines. It's about how small moments, ones we barely notice, can send us into entirely different versions of ourselves. Gwyneth Paltrow plays Helen twice. Same woman, same starting point. But watch closely and you'll see how slight differences, who she talks to, what she believes, begin to shape who she becomes. It's not magic. It's emotional realism. Because in both lives, she grows. And in both, she falters. That's the brilliance. The film was sold as a light romantic comedy, but what it delivered instead was something quieter, more reflective. It asks a question most movies avoid. Not, what if you changed the past, but what if the past changed you? The timelines don't compete. They echo. And the tension isn't in which is better. It's in watching how the same person bends differently under different weather. Maybe that's why it didn't explode on release. It promised a meet-cute, and gave us something closer to a mirror. Most of us don't get to compare our choices side by side. But if we did, we might realize that either life can matter if we learn how to move forward in the one we have, and maybe that's enough. Picture Los Angeles, December 1999. Crowded streets, heat rising off the pavement, and that buzzing feeling that something's about to break. That's the world of Strange Days, a film that came out in 1995, but somehow saw the future and got a little too close. The tech at the center of it is called Squid. It records what you see, feel, hear, your full experience, onto a disc someone else can play back. It's not science fiction for escape. It's escape itself. Ralph Fiennes plays Lenny Nero, a former cop who now deals these experiences on the black market. He's charming, yes, but off balance. Always looking back. Angela Bassett plays Mace. She's not flashy, she's steady. She drives the car, protects the kid, calls out the nonsense. Her presence gives the movie its pulse and its clarity. But the real story? It's about what people choose to see. Police brutality, voyeurism, racial unrest. Strange Days doesn't hint at them. It shows them. And it does so through recordings, memories being bought and sold like entertainment. That may have been too much in 1995. The movie didn't land with audiences. Too raw. Too chaotic. But today, it feels like a warning we never listened to. Bigelow directs with urgency. James Cameron's script doesn't flinch. It's not polished. It's tense. And it asks something we still haven't answered. What happens when technology captures the truth, and no one wants to face it? Strange Days isn't comfortable, but it's still waiting to be seen. Imagine waking up in a bathtub, no memory, no name, and you're wanted for murder. That's how Dark City opens. No slow build, no explanations, just confusion and darkness. John Murdoch, played by Rufus Sewell, starts piecing things together. The city he's in, it never sees daylight. The streets rearrange, people forget who they are, and someone or something is behind it. The strangers. Pale, silent, and in control. Every night they tune the city, shifting buildings, rewriting memories. It's not science fiction in the flashy sense, it's more like a slow disorientation, where even your past doesn't belong to you. Murdoch resists. Quietly. Desperately. He searches not just for truth, but for something real. A feeling, a memory, a connection. Jennifer Connelly plays Emma, who may or may not be his wife. William Hurt brings gravity as the detective trying to make sense of the impossible. He's strange even for this world. Whispers, limps, fidgets, part scientist, part puppet. Dark City came out just before The Matrix, and it got buried. No bullet time, no leather trench coats, just questions about identity, free will, memory, things that don't fit easily into a trailer. But revisit it now, and it holds up, maybe even more than ever. In a world of algorithms and filtered realities, what parts of us are really ours? Dark City doesn't offer easy answers, but it sits with the questions, and in doing so, becomes something rare. Have you ever felt a relationship teeter on the edge of danger, thrilling and worrying in the same breath? That's the undercurrent running through Wild at Heart. Sailor, Paige, and Lula, Laura Dern, hit the road, on the run from rules, expectations, and Lula's mother, who's not exactly subtle in trying to pull her daughter back. Diane Ladd plays that role with urgency, relentless, unpredictable. Each roadside stop along their journey feels off. One minute it's small talk, the next, something darker creeping in. The story isn't a straight shot. It moves like a night drive, moments of quiet, then flashes of danger. Music shifts from pounding rock to soft whispers. Lynch threads in nods to The Wizard of Oz, but not in a cute or nostalgic way. These are reminders. Stories about home can warp, especially when the road starts changing the people on it. So why did Wild at Heart slip by in 1990? Maybe it was the tone. It's not easily categorized. Not quite a crime film, not really a love story, not fully surreal, but always a little off balance. That resistance to labels might have turned some viewers away. But watch it now, and the choices feel intentional. The blend of pop, Americana, and emotional chaos, it holds up. You get two characters trying to stay connected in a world that keeps veering sideways. Let it unfold slowly. Let it get weird. It's a road movie, sure. But the most important part is what they're driving toward, and what they're trying to outrun. Picture this. Summer of '91, suburban Los Angeles. 5 kids, 1 house, no adults. Their mom's off in Australia, and the babysitter, well, she dies. Day 1. That's how Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead begins. equal parts absurd and surprisingly grounded. 17-year-old Sue Ellen, played by Christina Applegate, is suddenly responsible for everything. Groceries, bills, her wild siblings, all of it. With no real options, she fakes a resume and lands a job at a high-end fashion company. What starts as bluffing quickly becomes survival. She's making up budgets, learning the lingo, keeping up appearances. The office? All fluorescent lighting, pastel suits, and 90s tech. But beneath the surface, there's a sharp look at gender roles, corporate double standards, and how much of adulthood is just acting like you know what you're doing. Applegate brings more than charm. There's frustration, doubt, and real growth. Meanwhile, chaos back home unfolds like a suburban war movie. Lawn equipment, junk food, and too many secrets. So why isn't this movie more appreciated? Probably the title. It sounds like a throwaway teen comedy, and it is funny, but it's also smarter than people gave it credit for. The satire is subtle. The emotion creeps in slowly. Over time, it built a following. For a certain generation, it became a code. If someone says, "I'm right on top of that, Rose," they get it. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead didn't ask to be taken seriously, but maybe it deserves a closer look. Because growing up, it rarely goes as planned. Step into Hell's Kitchen. Back when the bars were still Irish, the air smelled like sawdust, and last night's fights weren't quite finished. That's where State of Grace begins. Terry Noonan, Sean Penn, returns to the neighborhood after years away, but this time he's carrying more than history. He's undercover. The streets are now run by his childhood friends, Jackie and Frankie Flannery. Jackie is unpredictable, wired tight, never quite still. Frankie is all restraint, calculating, focused. And Terry? He's caught between them, balancing memory and betrayal, past and duty. On the surface, it's a story you've probably heard: cops, crime, blurred loyalties. But what sets State of Grace apart are the pauses in between. The quiet rooftop conversations, the empty church pews, the sense that this version of New York, gritty, working class, built on familiarity, is slipping away. You can feel it in every empty lot and fading brick wall. Oldman gives one of his most volatile performances. Harris doesn't need to raise his voice, and Penn, he plays it inward like a man carrying too much and trying not to show it. State of Grace opened 2 weeks before Goodfellas. Same city, same themes, but only one got the spotlight. Still, this one lingers, not in big moments but in quiet ones, the kind that stay with you. By the end, what echoes isn't violence, it's the silence left behind. The loss of a place and a version of loyalty that couldn't survive it. In Malice, things seem ordinary at first. Quiet New England town. A couple, Andy and Tracy, starting a new chapter. A respected surgeon moves in next door, but underneath the calm, something shifts. Alec Baldwin plays Dr. Jed Hill, and from his first scene, he's confident. Maybe too confident. He's the kind of person who fills a room fast, someone you'd probably trust, until you shouldn't. When Tracy faces a sudden health crisis, Hill steps in. The procedure is quick, life-altering. But soon, questions start to surface. Not big reveals, just small inconsistencies. Offhand remarks, half answers, the kind of details that make you pause and ask, who's really in control here? What makes Malice stand out is how it moves. It doesn't rush. It lets tension build in low voices and long silences. Baldwin delivers one of the most memorable lines of his career, but the film isn't built on one moment. It's the accumulation that gets you. Nicole Kidman plays her part with restraint. Nothing flashy, just layers quietly shifting. The film blends genres, medical drama, legal thriller, domestic tension, and never feels off balance. And yet, it slipped through the cracks. Released in a crowded era for thrillers, it didn't shout. It waited. Looking back, that patience feels intentional. There's no spectacle here, just characters making choices, some careful, some cruel, and a story about what happens when trust meets ambition. Malice doesn't ask for attention. It earns it, quietly, steadily, and leaves you with more questions than answers. Imagine a film noir, but the usual power dynamics are flipped. The muscle, the plan, the tension, it's all driven by two women. That's the quiet brilliance of Bound, 1996. Corky, played by Gina Gershon, is a former convict doing repair work in a Chicago apartment building. Violet, played by Jennifer Tilly, lives just across the hall. She's smart, observant, and tired of being underestimated. What begins as attraction builds into something more calculated and far more dangerous. But what Bound does so well, especially for a debut film, is control tone and pacing. The Wachowskis create a world that feels familiar. Tight interiors, hushed conversations, sudden violence. Yet nothing plays out the way you expect. Every scene is efficient, every decision driven by character, not cliché. Gershon and Tilly aren't playing archetypes. They feel grounded, capable, real, and the camera never turns them into spectacle. Their relationship has weight, built on trust, risk, and something that looks a lot like mutual survival. So why was it overlooked? Maybe the mid-90s weren't ready for a thriller led by two women who weren't punished for wanting power, or each other. Maybe the marketing leaned too heavily on the novelty, and not enough on the craft. Rewatch Bound now, and you'll see how carefully it all clicks into place. Noir aesthetics, tightly wound tension, characters who know the stakes, and still push forward. No tricks, no flash, just smart storytelling, and the quiet confidence of filmmakers who knew exactly what they were doing. So there you have it. 10 films from the 90s that might have missed the spotlight but never lost their voice. Some are messy, some are strange. A few hit a little too close to home, but each one lingers long after the credits. At Vintageverse, we're not chasing hype, we're chasing feeling. The kind that sneaks up on you during a quiet scene or a line you didn't think would stick. If one of these films speaks to you, go find it. Watch it late, watch it alone. Let it sit with you. And here's the question. Which film on this list feels like it was waiting for you to discover it? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's build something better than a list. Let's build a conversation. More stories coming soon. Stay tuned.